Hey everyone, welcome back to Alpha Insights. I'm Dakota and I'm here with Archer. And hey, if you have questions while you're listening, drop them at stockalpha.ai.
Good to be here. I'm Archer. Quick housekeeping. US markets are closed for the weekend. Equities last traded as of Thursday, June 18th, and trading resumes Monday, June 22nd.
Right, so we're talking cannabis policy this episode. Big moves in the last couple of days have the sector on watch. Vermont just passed a major reform, and the Supreme Court handed down a unanimous decision affecting cannabis consumers and firearms.
Exactly. Two different kinds of developments. One at the state level that changes how product could move regionally, and one at the federal judicial level that narrows a legal overhang for consumers.
Let's start with Vermont. The state signed a law that doubles possession limits for adults and puts language into law that would allow interstate cannabis commerce, if other states agree to reciprocity. So, that's a potentially huge shift.
It is. The key word there is potential. Vermont can create a legal framework inside its borders, but real interstate sales require cooperating states, matching rules on packaging, testing, taxation, and licenses. The practical hurdles are significant.
Totally. The headline is exciting because, in theory, it lets distribution cross state lines. In practice, operators will need to navigate reciprocity, compliance checks, and logistics. And states move at different speeds.
And that's where multi-state operators come in. Companies with established licensing, distribution networks, and banking access are the ones best positioned to benefit if those interstate corridors open up.
So watch for corporate commentary when markets reopen Monday. Management statements about licensing, procurement, or distribution packs could signal who's preparing for regional expansion. Switching gears. Federally, the DEA's administrative path is moving too. An administrative law judge laid out a procedural timetable for a rescheduling hearing slated for later this month, which clarifies the next steps.
Right, that procedural order sets filing deadlines, evidence submission, and testimony windows. It doesn't instantly reschedule cannabis, but it does make rescheduling a nearer-term event if filings and expert testimony push the issue forward.
I mean, the implication is market expectations can change fast if the federal timeline tightens. Even talk about rescheduling can shift capital flows, regulatory planning, and how companies talk about banking and taxes.
Exactly. And then there's the Supreme Court ruling, unanimous in United States versus Himani, which held that recreational cannabis consumers retain Second Amendment rights to possess firearms.
Honestly, I was a bit surprised by how clear-cut that was. Practically, it reduces a specific legal risk for adult consumers. For retailers and state regulators, that can simplify compliance conversations around auxiliary sales, like accessories, and maybe ease some banking worries tied to consumer legal status.
Important caveat: it does not change federal scheduling. Cannabis stays controlled at the federal level unless and until administrative or legislative action changes that. This decision narrows a constitutional risk, but it isn't decriminalization.
Right, so one set of legal worries goes down, but the larger federal framework stays in place, for now. We should also flag state-level divergence. Kentucky rescinded an earlier order that let out-of-state medical patients use qualifying products, tightening access there. That shows states can still backtrack.
Which is a reminder, policy momentum is not uniform. On the flip side, look at Montana. Reporting shows how investment in regulation built out retail networks and cultivation, turning an illicit market into a functioning adult-use marketplace.
So the takeaway is nuanced. Some states are laying groundwork for cross-border commerce, others are retrenching, and some are maturing into predictable markets where demand, retail density, and supply chains support long-term operations.
What should listeners track this week? First, filings and testimony tied to that DEA hearing. Deadlines and expert input could change expectations around rescheduling.
Second, any corporate statements about interstate commerce, licensing applications, distribution agreements, or operational planning. Those will be signals that companies are positioning for regional sales.
Third, keep an eye on state-level reciprocity moves. Vermont's law is a template, but it needs partner states and administrative rules to make it actionable.
And finally, watch how investors react when markets reopen Monday, June 22nd. Names to watch include the US-focused cannabis ETF and companies such as Trulieve, Green Thumb Industries, Curaleaf, and Tilray for any operational commentary.
Interesting.
Quick reactions: risks remain. State reversals like Kentucky, federal enforcement shifts, and delays in implementing interstate rules. But the policy backdrop is tilting toward more clarity in certain areas.
Right, and remember, analysts note that these moves broaden opportunity, but execution and timelines will determine whether that translates into durable growth.
So, to sum up together, Vermont's interstate language could be a game changer if states cooperate. The DEA process makes rescheduling talk more immediate, and the Supreme Court ruling removes a legal overhang for consumers but doesn't change federal scheduling.
And local policy swings like Kentucky's highlight ongoing regulatory risk, while markets like Montana show how regulation can build lasting retail and cultivation strengths.
Got questions? We'd love to hear from you. Head over to stockalpha.ai where you can ask us anything and we'll answer live. And while you're there, check out more market content and our Q&A feature.
Thanks for listening. We'll be back with market reaction once trading resumes Monday. Stay curious.